Welcome back. Thanks very much for staying with us here on WION World is One News. We are resuming our continuous coverage here on the Pakistan election results, and joining us on this broadcast this afternoon is Reham Khan, journalist and author, and Imran Khan's ex-wife. Thanks very much for speaking with us here on WION, Reham. As always, let me begin by asking you for your initial reaction to the trends, to how Imran Khan is making his way closer to taking over as the Prime Minister of Pakistan.
Thank you, Molly. Absolutely. I mean, my reaction wasn't one of surprise, and I'm surprised that people are surprised. And I've been looking at reactions across Pakistan particularly, and people seem to be very depressed, in a state of shock, and as if this wasn't expected. And I wonder whether anyone's been listening to my analysis or what we've been saying on TV and writing for months on end. And of course, in the last couple of weeks, we've seen even US and the UK sort of articles coming out from the West, where it has been called the dirtiest elections. But the dirtiest election would get this dirty. I think perhaps the way it's been done has been really left nothing to the imagination. And so I personally thought that maybe they would have done it in a little bit more covert fashion, but I think that's the point that I made on the show yesterday as well, that perhaps the reason for doing it so blatantly, so openly, was to prove a point, to show who's the boss. And it seems that the military establishment is very much the boss. And so I think that even if you look at Imran's body language, he didn't look particularly happy last night for someone who's finally got the prize. And so we've been calling him the Prime Minister-select for some time now. And I said, you know, for a few weeks now, I've been saying that, you know, he's just waiting to be crowned. He is to be crowned. But that crown comes at a huge price. Of course, his integrity, it's cost him all of his integrity. It's a tragic fall for a hero. But also, I think it comes with a lot of maybe compromises, and that was something that did not go missing. A lot of people saw that on his face, and we see that, you know, with that kind of responsibility, I think that there will be a lot of expectations from him. So what is he exactly expected to do for those who've put him on that very, very difficult seat to sit on? And as they say, uncomfortable is the head that wears the crown, and I think Nawaz Sharif has learnt his lesson, and Maryam Nawaz has learnt it before actually getting the crown. Shehbaz Sharif, I think, is the one who is perhaps everyone's quite upset with him at his lack of reaction, I think. And I think this is what across the nation, I'm looking at people and I was reading tweets, and I was bemused because I saw it coming. It was very predictable. It's not a surprise at all. The only surprise is the way they've done it. They've just taken the gloves off and sort of shown it to the world that we are going to do what we are going to do, and we are going to go for a personal vendetta. But not only that, they have actually gone for the kill. They've actually taken Punjab right out of Shehbaz Sharif's hands. They've taken central Punjab as well, and even Karachi. I mean, the biggest shock is actually Karachi. 10 seats out of Karachi are estimated to be going to Imran and Imran's party, and that, of course, is a major upset.
Indeed, Reham, you have been saying all along that Imran Khan was waiting to be crowned. Have you meant all along that the military has successfully interfered in the election, also has perhaps played a role in delaying the election results, would you say?
Well, I mean, I've been very clear. I've been very vocal. And I think many people, like myself, have been. But I think I believed that they would go ahead with it. Whereas I think the political parties, they did not believe. And you know, part of me is of course, it's a very depressing thing for the nation. It's very sad. We can sit here with the analysis, and, you know, we as journalists and analysts, we can go on forever about this. But what about the nation? I mean, it's upsetting, as in, if I don't put my journalist and analyst head on, and I think just like an an overseas Pakistani, the pride, of course, has once again been damaged, and it's not very nice when you sit in the West, or you sit with perhaps friends from India, and repeatedly you have even I know that we had a recent conversation in our own household where a very famous Bollywood actress called Pakistan a failed state, and it upsets us. You know, it's not something that we want to admit, and it's humiliating to be labeled a failed state. And I have been saying on my Twitter feed as well, if you look at it, I've been saying that this is a classic example. You put in someone who is unsuitable for the position, you go for mass scale rigging, you do it very blatantly, then you slap on the failed state label and an Islamist label, the extremist label, and the next thing you know, there'll be embargoes, there'll be the West maligning us, and who is going to suffer? The Pakistani Awam are going to suffer. Those who've been queuing up for hours in the heat, those who think that their vote has been tampered with, those who have no basic rights, and of course the right to vote as well has been taken away from them. A lot of people are saying that this is not what we voted for, whether that's true or not. But of course it's not a great image of Pakistan, and I've been looking at some senior journalists, some senior people in media who've been saying that they've been covering elections in Pakistan for the last 30 years, and never have they seen such blatant pre-poll engineering. And then the way they handled the result was just didn't leave, like I said, anything to the imagination. It was very clear that they were that something was happening with the results, where they were not only that all the parties. What is laughable is actually some of the parties that they created are also complaining of rigging. So the Tehreek-e-Labbaik Ya Rasulullah is complaining, TLYP is complaining, even those with a jeep are complaining, PSP is complaining. Now these are all, you know, so of course even the King's men, most of them are complaining today, but there can be only one, I suppose, who sits on the wall. And but I think it is definitely quite a sad day for many who are pro-democratic, and it's just taken us back, I would say, a good 30-40 years back in time. I think this is very regressive, and it seems the way it's been handled, also the way the clampdown of the media persisted throughout the pre-election campaign. And then, of course, the fact that the way they've done or not announced, I mean, even now we don't really know. They keep announcing one result. They say 125 seats going to PTI, and then within 5 minutes I get another update saying, oh, it's actually 115. So it's been a very depressing day at night also for many people who have been viewing this for the last 30 years. You see, we've been doing this perhaps only for a few years, but those who have seen Mohtarama Benazir Bhutto's Shaheed struggle, those who have lived and covered the news and anti-democratic influences during the Zia era, then of course Musharraf's coup, it's all a little bit more than deja vu. It seems like we're back in the dark ages.
Way back in the dark ages. Reham, Imran has made his stance clear when it comes to a number of issues, but what is Pakistan getting up for now? What are the people of Pakistan looking at when it comes to their core issues being addressed? What lies in store for the country with Imran Khan at the helm of affairs?
I think for Pakistan, as I said, it's you know, the extremist label is an uncomfortable one for the West, of course, and Pakistan has had that label. People like myself have been fighting on the ground, trying to dispel the myths that actually we're not a very, you know, we're not people, a nation of extremists. That is an unfair label. It is a myth created by the US, and you know, this Talibanization of the Swat region, and the Talibanization, that label that has been given to the Pakhtun region, and now again even to the Balochistan, it's an unfair label. The extremists and the militants in our society have been created. I still firmly believe that this is not what the 19 or 220 million people actually believe. And I think that this is a misrepresentation, and of course Imran at the helm is a huge, gross misrepresentation of the people. This is not what 2018 Pakistan looks like. This is not what Pakistan in 2018 wants to look like, and certainly that doesn't bode very well for our future, for our future aspirations. What we are looking for, what the Pakistani Awam want, is clean drinking water. We've not been able to deliver that under Imran's government in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. We have not been able to deliver jobs for the youth in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa or even in other constituencies where the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf have won seats. Things which are important to Pakistani people have not been, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf cannot be given credit for pushing them in parliament. And this, finally, this blasphemy card that they've used right up to the elections, that's a very dangerous thing. This may make India nervous. This may make Western sensibilities might be a little bit perturbed because of this, but I can tell you with confidence that Pakistanis are very concerned about this. And through the night and early evening as well, as the results were pouring in, I was playing the role of the agony aunt, where people were, like I said, in a state of shock, and they were saying, but this is not what we want. How are we going to, what is the world going to say? And they weren't even talking about the rigging, they were talking about the choice of the man. And I've written an article this morning as well where I've, these are some of the first responses coming out are not only how could they do this, but then it's also the choice of the man. And let's not go into his sort of personal idiosyncrasies and his problems, which are of course many, but just what he projects in media. That's what people are finding it very difficult to deal with. I personally also think that it is going to be a huge problem, and it's going, I believe that it's going to plan. The West is, or people who are sitting in the West, or even China particularly, are going to be very uneasy this morning because this is not the man of their choice. And that is the problem that I see. Within the last 5 years, what we saw was the Foreign Office being taken away, snatched away, I would say, from the executive. And Nawaz Sharif and his cabinet had no control. They had no voice over the Afghan policy. We have suffered. Afghanistan has suffered because of that. And if you look at the broader region, as far as Kazakhstan, people have complained to me and have said that we can't talk to Pakistan until and unless Afghanistan issue is resolved, and there is going to be no debate unless we Pakistan revisits its policy on the Afghan issue. And so now, this morning, I think that the Chinese are going to be very upset and very nervous about the situation, because Imran and the Chinese do not enjoy a healthy relationship. We've had Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government as well making some very odd decisions and some very open comments in the provincial assembly. The chief minister of Imran in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has been on record for his very odd and very uncomfortable stance towards the Chinese and the Afghans, and that has caused a lot of problems with investment for local businesses, but particularly for the Chinese. So I think they're going to be very nervous. Recently, the only ally that Imran seemed to have, the Iranians haven't been very happy either. So they're not going to be very happy. And of course, the Saudis have made their position very clear about how they feel about Imran, and this sudden leaning towards the Barelvi side with his third marriage has raised quite a few eyebrows, I think, in the Saudi lobby. And also the three times that Imran made his appearance in the parliament, that's overall less than 5% of Imran's presence in the parliament as part of the opposition. All three times were actually related in one way or the other with the Saudis, and they're going to be very uncomfortable. So these have been our natural allies. And of course, India, everyone knows what Imran has been saying in recent days about India. So I think it's a foreign policy that I would be very concerned about. And this is going to be something which is going to damage our economic prosperity. This is what is going to damage our interests in terms of the CPEC. And so it looks like a big win for the US. That's how I see it.
All right, Reham, it's also been a 22-year-long struggle for Imran Khan. During the time that you spent with him, during the time that you were married to him, how did he react every time the possibility of becoming the country's prime minister was brought up? Did he see this day on the horizon or back then, or did it seem like a far-fetched possibility?
Molly, he saw it every Saturday, and so a lot of people ask me why the marriage was, it was why the news was withheld, and I wasn't told that the marriage would, or the news of the marriage would be withheld for over 2 months, and it was because every Saturday he expected himself to be crowned, and this was actually at a time where there was absolutely no possibility. So post September, or through September, and even after the first few days of the Dharna in August, we knew that there was no chance of the Nawaz Sharif government toppling, and Nawaz Sharif was never going to resign, and that there wouldn't be Rahil Sharif, the then Chief of the Army Staff, wasn't going to make this happen. Chaudhry Nisar at the time was expected to bring 60-odd members of the National Assembly to Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. That didn't happen. So September was really Imran feeling quite dejected and inconsolable, really. He saw no end in sight. He couldn't see light at the end of the tunnel. But then again, every so often, that hope was revived. And who was reviving that hope? It was because of these little concerts that they would set up for him. And I say set up for him because what I saw of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, that they did not have the organization and the support or the infrastructure to put these jalsas and these huge rallies together. And whenever they were left to their own devices, they failed. So I think coming up to the 30th of November, again, there was this renewed hope. And part of the reason why he needed a wife on his side at the time could have been because he was expecting to be crowned. So I would say he was very impatient. He has been impatient for the last 22 years. He saw that as his birthright and wanted it immediately. And when we'd ask him to do something towards governance or make his, to show his face somewhere, his classic line was, "Do you know how long I've been doing this? It's boring, and I'm bored." And so I think he's perhaps not bored this morning, but I think there are other challenges. And one of the things that I said to him was that what if they make you Prime Minister? You're not ready to become Prime Minister yet. You'll have to wake up, at 8 a.m. and you'll have to work a lot longer hours than you are at the moment. And your lifestyle is like a supermodel's. You party late and you wake up late, and then you have all of these vitamins sort of supplementing your lifestyle. And he would just laugh and he would say, actually you're spot on. What if I am made Prime Minister? You're absolutely right. Perhaps I should try to wake up early and sort of focus a little bit on working. So I think that's maybe one of the concerns going through his head. But I think even before that, he'll be thinking of, it's a huge, huge ask. It's not as easy as he perhaps was given to believe until now, that becoming the Prime Minister is that easy. Punjab is going to be a huge problem. He will have to make a lot of compromises. He'll have to make a lot of sacrifices when it comes to those who have been his right-hand men. And I think in the next few hours, we are going to see, interestingly, what the Chief Minister of Punjab, what will be Imran's choice, if Imran is indeed given the choice to choose the Chief Minister for Punjab. And that is going to set a lot of problems off for him. So it's going to be a very uneasy road for him, and a lot of people, myself included, don't really think that this is going to be a government that is going to be allowed to settle in. Perhaps not even as long as Nawaz Sharif was allowed to settle in. So it's kind of karma for Imran, and I think that might be making him very nervous this morning, even